Acting President Yemi Oshibajo in Katsina says the administration is working to improve the socio-economic fortunes of Nigeria.
Department of State Services embarks on accelerated review of detention cases, seeks restoration of public confidence and enhanced national security.
Nigeria and Sao Tome and Principe collaborate on improved security and economic interests.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on maximizing the mandatory NYSC year.
Now, let me juggle some person's memories right now, especially, my friend Kinsley here, whom I'm sure did this as a song, as a youth cover. Let youth obey the clarion call. Let us lift our nation high with dedication and selflessness. And let's Nigeria is ours, Nigeria we serve. And Kinsley, I don't know, can you put that in form of a song?
Don't muddle that up, Kirian. Quite right, what we were talking about, that's the anthem of the National Youth Service Corps. But it's been several decades now for me, and so it's I have to clear the cobwebs in my memory to recall the full words of that. But of course, one remembers with a great deal of pride having to participate in the NYSC program, adorning the kit for the service year. Indeed, it was a great deal of fun at the time. Young men and women being on the National Youth Service Corps.
All right, now, indeed, Kinsley, and for a nation just coming out of a civil war then, the dream of the founding fathers of the scheme was to, for all to forge ahead in the notable 3 R's, namely reconstruct, reconcile, and rebuild.
Hence, the establishment of the NYSC that came into being in 1973, and the purpose primarily was to help inculcate in Nigerian youths the spirit of selfless service to the community and also to emphasize the spirit of oneness.
Now, the objectives of the National Youth Service Corps scheme are clearly spelled out in Decree number 51 of the 16th June 1993. Of course, that was what repealed that of 1973.
That's right.
As well as to inculcate discipline in Nigerian youths by instilling in them a tradition of industry at work and of patriotism and loyal service to Nigeria in any situation they may find themselves.
And for the mandatory one-year program, it comprises 4 main segments in which every corps member must satisfactorily participate before he or she is qualified to be issued with a discharge certificate.
Now, the service year, therefore, comprises of orientation courses, primary assignment, community development service, and winding up, passing out. How do all of these engagements impact on leadership essence? So it has been 45 years of commendable service for graduates of higher institutions of learning.
All right, Kirian, if you recall, at the beginning of the NYSC program, graduates of colleges of education were also involved, but on account of the growing population in the country, those set of participants were gradually phased out. So mainly now, university and polytechnic graduates, that's to say for those who have the higher national diploma. But indeed, in terms of leadership component of leadership training component of the NYSC program, young minds all over the nation have constantly laid claim to the saying that the future leadership of any country is dependent on its teeming youth.
While one gives the credence of leaders being born, leadership skills through a scheme like that of the NYSC will not be left out of place. How prepared are the teeming youth will be the next question, Kinsley.
All right, there's no doubt about that, but that will, of course, require some amount of preparation from the very many institutions of higher learning in the country today, and ultimately down to the society itself. But how are the opportunities in the course of the service year being maximized by the corps members themselves? And this, of course, will speak to 2 cardinal planks, Kirian. One of it has to do with self-development. development, because post-service year, you get confronted with the issue of employment or further studies. And there is also the issue of personal safety and security, which has become particularly relevant now on account of the several occurrences in some parts of the country. And Kirian, unfortunately, the NYSC is just getting out of a mourning period. Yes. 3 days of mourning declared on account of the 9 Youth Club members who got drowned last weekend in Taraba State. That's our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, how to maximize the NYSC service here. It's on that note, we'd like to welcome you to the program. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umayo. It's good to have you join us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, the last for the week. We are broadcasting live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. And as always, we have our complimentary segments of the program, which will come your way as well. They include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. Well, this morning, of course, I have to bring you the news beat. Stay with us. All right. Now, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says the All Progressives Congress-led administration is working to improve the socio-economic fortunes of Nigerians. He said this at the grand finale of the APC campaign for the Katsina North senatorial by-election.
The day that Muhammadu Buhari was voted in as president, there were many people who knew that from that day, there will be no more stealing in government. There will be no more stealing of the money of the people. And that we will focus on helping the people of Nigeria, the common people of Nigeria.
And Muhammadu Buhari Osinbajo Dynamic Support Group, MBO, is optimistic that its plan to mobilize 40 million votes for President Buhari's re-election is yielding the desired result. This is evident as the group continues to receive more members who equally share their vision of continuity in governance.
It's a grassroots mobilization strategy designed primarily to activate and mobilize 21 executive per polling unit across the country using dual strategy, membership, drive, network, and catalyst influence, which in totality will yield 40 million votes for Mr. President.
The remaining APC lawmaker representing Ojomu Balogu constituency of Offa in Kwara State House of Assembly, Saheed Popoola, and Offa people have reaffirmed their commitment to the All Progressives Congress under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari.
As you see, the entire Offa, there is no single person that will do PDP in Offa. Yes. The entire Offa is APC. They are for Muhammadu Buhari, they are for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they are for Lai Mohammed, they are for Aregbesola, and they are for Saheed Popoola, and Adams Oshiomhole. They are for APC.
As the 2019 general elections draw near, the management of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, is gearing up to give Nigerians the best television coverage in history of elections in the country. Come 2019, Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, who gave this assurance at the Heads of Engineering Conference in Abuja, said this will be achieved through acquisition of state-of-the-art facilities that will be deployed across the country during the elections.
Management can only provide the equipment, but the usage, the maintenance of the equipment is the sole responsibility of the Directorate of Engineering.
Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi State indigenes resident in Nasarawa State have reaffirmed their support to the governing All Progressives Congress (APC) and President Buhari's re-election bid. They stated this at a rally in Kefi to dissociate themselves from the defection of Sokoto State Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal.
From APC to PDP, they have done that based on their own personal interests, not the interests of the Sokoto State, not the interests of the Zamfara people, not the interests of the Kebbi people.
Former Minister of Transport and gubernatorial aspirant in 2011 general elections under PDP, Yusuf Suleiman, has formally defected to the APC. He announced his defection while receiving membership card of his party APC.
See that I don't like the idea of defection is why I remain in PDP until now. But I have been a very passive member since 2014. I have not attended anything in PDP in Sokoto State since 2014. They know that. I have been in the wrong company. I have been dealing with people who do not understand what the concept and nature of politics are. They are in for something totally different.
Now to security matters. The Department of State Services, DSS, is embarking on accelerated review of detention cases and perceived abuse of human rights to restore public confidence and enhance national security. The Acting Director General of the service, Matthew Seyefa, said this at a press conference in Abuja. He said the services will not be intimidated to become sectorial or biased in the discharge of its role in promoting national unity.
The unity of this nation comes first. That is why we are in business. If not, we will not be. So it's in our collective and enlightened self-interest too, to do our utmost to protect our people and execute our mandate within the tenets of the law.
He assured Nigerians the readiness of the service to partner with the media and other security agencies to carry out its mandate within the ambit of the law in line with global best practices. Now, more Nigerian youths are being trained to increase their skills and competence through the Empower Vocational Training and Apprenticeship Program of the federal government. At a stakeholders meeting held in Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari received commendation for addressing the needs of the country and unemployment through positive engagement of youths.
Countries like Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin Republic in building skills. But with this program now, it will address the skills gap.
The trainees are actively participating in the training. The president is doing a very nice job.
Nigeria and Sao Tome and Principe are collaborating to improve security and mutual economic interest between the two countries. The visit of the Nigerian delegation to Sao Tome is to also look at other areas of partnership.
Issues of no less importance include: 1. The bilateral air services agreement, BASA, between our two countries, signed several years ago, but which has remained maribound, and issues of bilateral loans and debt.
And with that, we conclude the news segment of the program. But of course, we will return for the full details of this morning's edition of Good Morning Nigeria after the break. And now to business. Nigeria to deepen cooperation with Southeast Asia towards strengthening trade relations. More on this with Comfort Amodu on Business News.
We begin with the report on the volume of trade between Nigeria and Southeast Asia, which hit $7.7 billion in 2017. Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema, who described the volume as very promising, noted that it portrays the good relations between Nigeria and countries of the region, adding that more can be done to strengthen the trade relations. In an interview with NTA Business News on the sidelines of the 3rd Asian 2018 Film Festival in Abuja, the minister stated that Nigeria is willing to learn from the region, which the IMF and World Bank projects to be the 4th largest economies in the world by 2050. The South Asian region, which comprises 10 countries, is reputed for its resilient economic growth and sustainable development.
We want to increase our cooperation. There's a lot of similarities, between the two between Southeast Asia and West Africa, and we see that increasing in terms of cooperation between us. But even moving beyond trade and economic relations, I think also cultural ties.
We can also share our technology about the commercial quantity of planting rice, because International Rice Research Institute of the world is in the Philippines. and we can share them that, yes, we can grow rice anywhere on top of oil. That's in Brunei.
Meanwhile, the African Development Bank has expressed its determination to boost fish production in Africa. The Development Bank, through its Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation program, plans to increase the yield to 5 million tons by 2025. The initiative under the Feed Africa is targeted at increasing inland water fish to enable Africa become self-sufficient in fish production. Meanwhile, fish farmers are soliciting the support of the federal government to provide the enabling environment that would ease their business, as they say it is a lucrative one if properly harnessed.
This 5,000 and then stock another 5,000 in that pond there, and that's how it keeps going. There's no way he will not make up to 3 million from this one. It's highly lucrative.
This is our business. You can carry fish enter, you see plenty gain. Because sometimes 2 times in a week, I used to pack inside my farm, and one motor contains 50 rubber. That one rubber is 25 kg into 50. I used to pack 2 times in a week.
And now a quick look at the latest closing figures of trading from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That's it on Business News. I'm Comfort Amadou. Thanks for being there.
Thank you very much, Comfort, for the business package. Next for us now, we take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers in our review segment.
And we'll be reviewing 5 national dailies for today's edition of the program. Currently, we have lead headlines in these 5 newspapers, and that just say the same. Could you just
virtually.
lead us into
matters arising from the blockade of the National Assembly earlier in the week, and of course, unfortunately, there are also issues relating to security. So, issues around the DSS. Let's take a look at the Daily Independent newspaper. Let's take a look at Daily Independent. Above the nameplate of Daily Independent, the first story there is DSS to review cases of unlawful detentions and rights abuses. With 2 riders, Lawa Daura released, passport seized. Ekpayong released hours after arrest by EFCC. Lawa Daura exhibited past DSS, who was fired on Tuesday. Ekpayong also was an immediate, was past DG of the DSS just before Lawa Daura was appointed. Now, the lead story for Daily Independent says Daura colluded with politicians to invade National Assembly, and that's attributed to a police report on the incident that occurred on Tuesday. For the Nigerian Tribune, the lead story is also on the DSS, says why EFCC questioned ex-DSS DG Ekpayong. And with a number of riders, National Assembly invasion, indication of how low politics and democracy have gone. That's according to former President Obasanjo. European Union condemns invasion, and APC reps want full probe. And DSS to now review Dasuki's and other human rights abuse cases. And that's according to the acting DG of the DSS. And immediately below that is the headline, National Assembly blockade. Daura acted in connivance with politicians. And that's according to the Inspector General of Police. Kieran.
All right, now to this day newspaper, the lead headline is IG submits interim report on Daura to acting president with 2 riders there. EFCC quizzes, releases ex-DG Ekpayong. And now CEFA promises to review illegal detentions and perhaps human rights abuses. And let's turn to Punch now. The Punch newspaper captured it this way. EFCC grills ex-DSS DG Ebenya, who they were shielded from arrest. And the story is on page 10 and 43 of the Punch newspaper. But it has two writers here. Agency unfreezes Benue account. Autumn thanks Nigerians. IG seeks Oshibajo's approval to search Daura's house. That's how Punch captured it this morning.
All right, Kieran, as we indicated, I mean, these are matters arising from the events of Tuesday that following the siege that was laid to the National Assembly by operatives of the DSS. There's a police report here indicating that there seemed to have been some collusion between the DSS and some politicians. I'm sure that those are details that the acting president will deal with, along, of course, with other members of the National Security Council.
I think to say collusion is correct to some extent from what we have learned so far after the incident, because the reason why the acting president was not in the know of that action could tilt to the fact that somebody colluded with another to ensure that that illegal action was taken. And what plays out now is the fact that the man is under investigation.
All right, but the other point is the promise by the acting Director General of the DSS to review cases of unlawful detention and rights abuses. This is particularly very significant. And as it turns out, there are a number of operatives who could be, as it were, on a frolic of their own, carrying out all kinds of activities in the name of the state, without the head of state, and that's to say the president, commander-in-chief, being aware of what's going on. But ultimately, these kinds of activities, the consequences thereof, are usually attributed to the administration.
Exactly. You know, this is just kind of a ripple effect of that action, you know, because CFA is the second in command, or was the second in command before now, and that means that he has the knowledge of what transpires in that environment. You know, that he should, of course, be on top of it now that he's at the helm of affairs, to see how he can correct some of the anomalies perpetuated, you know, by his predecessor in the course of running the establishment.
That's right, because he wasn't calling the shots at the time.
No, he wasn't.
All right, Kieran, let's take a look at other stories. Still on politics, by the way. We have all kinds of claims there. Very quickly, you know, we've been talking about the National Assembly and, of course, why they need to reopen. There is a story there on the front page of the Daily Independent. Daily Independent, just beside the photograph, first column on the left-hand side. It says 2019, Buhari to run unopposed. Reps Deputy Speaker is running unopposed on the platform of the APC, not running unopposed throughout the country, by the way. That's the Reps Deputy Speaker, says National Assembly to reconvene Tuesday over INEC and others, and APC reps call for probe into DSS invasion. And then on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune on the right-hand side, first column on the right side, it says 45 political parties meet Saraki, alleged fresh plot against Senate. We may begin recall of Akpabio from Senate, Akwa Ibom PDP elders. That's on page 8. Recall has never worked. Never worked on that.
You never worked because the process is quite rigorous, right? It's not something you can just do, because for you to get the signatories of those that will recall you after voting is practically very difficult to do. And it will also take time, you know, for it to come to fruition.
That's right. And of course, the term of the 8th Senate is gradually rolling to a close.
Exactly.
I mean, that will be up until June next year.
Yes,
up to June next year. The latest attempt to recall a member of the legislature was Dino Melai, and it collapsed, as it were. Now, also, if you recall, we also read a story about the arrest of the former DG DSS. There was some conflict between the EFCC and the DSS over the earlier attempt to arrest Ekpeyong, but this was effected yesterday, and of course he was released shortly afterwards. And thereafter, I'm sure that whatever investigation they need to carry out, they can carry it out.
Yes. Sure. Okay, now let's turn to the Punch newspaper. There are other stories there, striking ones. Above the nameplate, let's start with the supplementary budget. National Assembly convenes on Tuesday. Page 9 has that story. Then below that, APC attacks Saraki again, calls him a traitor and a betrayer with 2 riders here. APC has not recovered from failure to subvert democracy, says Saraki, and EU condemns National Assembly invasion by DSS operatives. Is on page 7. And what will, of course, have been interesting to some retirees is PENCOM restores 25% lump sum payment to retirees. Pension, with a rider there, pension assets rise to 8.23 trillion naira. It's on page 23 of the Punch.
All right, Kirian, the story also, the running story on the freezing of the accounts of Benue and Akwa Ibom. That story, so there's a development. And the front pages, although some of them captured it differently. For instance, the second lead story for the New Telegraph, which is right at the foot of the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper, says, it's a rider actually. It says, arms scandal, EFCC quizzes SDG. One of the riders there says, court summons agency, that's the EFCC, for freezing Benue accounts. And then when you come to the front page of the Daily Independent, the story is also there as a rider. Second lead story below the photograph says court summons EFCC for freezing Benue government's accounts. But I think, Kirian, one of your stories there has the latest update to say that the EFCC has lifted the freeze, of course, as taking this up. I think it should be in the Punch newspaper if you take a look at that very clearly.
Yes. Now, the freezing is a welcome development, especially for Benue government and the people of Benue State. But, you know, we are yet to hear from the EFCC as to what really transpired, what happened that led to the freezing in the first place. In the first instance.
Well, the matter is already in court, so we'll allow them to sort themselves out.
Yes.
Now, in court.
On the This Day newspaper, let's take some stories there. Above the nameplate, Sheba Joe intervenes in Total's $16 billion again oil field dispute, with a rider December target for 200,000 BPD first oil under threat. And 45 political parties pay solidarity visit to Saraki with 2 riders there. Claim federal government wants to freeze Senate account. APC insists Senate President must step down.
All right, New Telegraph now, very quickly. New Telegraph above the nameplate, 2 headlines there. NTANewsNow generates 457 billion naira in 6 months. MTN generating 457 billion naira in 6 months. Stock market drops to 9-month low. That's on page 29. And then the lead story says, robbers unleash terror on Edo, kill 12 in bank raid, attack police division, burn area commander's car, and policeman and detained suspects die in attack. This took place in the north of Edo State, that's Sigara, in Edo, Idakuku local government area of Edo State. That story is also there on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And just some weeks ago, some policemen were also attacked and burnt in their vehicle. In Edo. And then, of course, here in Abuja, 7 policemen were shot, and killed in cold blood.
I think well, these criminals are beginning to turn to banks these days. You know, the bank robbery has become the order of the day now. Before the editorial, please, let's get to the foot of the Punch newspaper. There are striking stories there. Northern monarchs meet in Kaduna over polio scourge. That's on page 43. And for polio to return, Kingsley, that's is very dangerous.
Yeah,
and now,
there was a story yesterday out of the Federal Executive Council meeting on Wednesday that there had been an approval for the government to access a credit facility from the World Bank to the tune of some $150 million US for purposes of fighting polio.
Okay, now still on that line, patient beats MD, nurses at psychiatric hospital. Workers protest page 4 and 5.
Yeah, that story, Kirian, is very significant. Now, the Nigerian Tribune captures it perhaps a bit more explicitly, and immediately below the nameplate. And it says, man who claimed killing ex-Ondo deputy governor's daughter goes berserk, attacks CMD. That's the chief medical director. The daughter of the former deputy governor of Ondo State was murdered, obviously from the circumstances for ritual purposes. That is the gentleman now, that is said to have gone berserk.
Okay, now to the editorial taken from the Daily Sun. New political realignments. The last fortnight has witnessed a gale of political realignments in the form of political party defections, resignation from political parties, resignation from political positions, dismissals from the cabinets, the impeachment and attempted impeachment of some high state officials, Kinsley.
Well, the editorial speaks for itself. It's on current matters, obviously.
Exactly.
And since it's still a running copy, we would expect many more things to happen in the days and weeks and months ahead on account of the fact that this is cyclical.
Yeah,
it's an election cycle thing. And they will continue to assert themselves, provided governance doesn't suffer and provided democracy, of course, continues to endure. Yeah. Okay, that's the much that we can take. But just before we leave, so that, we all pray to be old and that God will continue to grant us long life and prosperity. On the front pages of at least the 3 papers I have this morning, you have a photograph there of the doyen of the accounting profession in Nigeria. That's Akintola Williams. Akintola Williams, age 99. And you can see him there to the left with the microphone is former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, of course, at the celebration, and then other chieftains. That's the governor of Ogun State. And in another photograph, you see the governor of Lagos State facilitating with him. That's Chief Akintola Williams, 99 years.
Is indeed an icon.
It's big time, no doubt about that, Kirian. Unfortunately, he lost his wife some years ago. So, happy birthday to Chief Akintola Williams, doyen of the accounting profession. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with our topic, how to maximize the NYSC mandatory year service.
And if you just joined us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and you are in good company for our conversation this morning. And to set the tone for that conversation on maximizing the national year of the NYLC scheme, let's take this background report put together by Aisha Obali.
One popular tune in National Youth Service Corps camps across the country, an anthem driven with the purpose of fostering unity, love, and peace among young graduates of different ethnic groups of Nigeria. The vision was birthed after the Civil War by the then military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, on May 22, 1973. Among the objectives of the scheme is to inculcate in Nigerian youth the spirit of selfless service to their community and to emphasize the spirit of oneness and brotherhood of all Nigerians, irrespective of cultural or social background, as well as commitment to the Nigerian project, whatever situation they might find themselves. In addition, it also meant to help Nigerian youth find their place in life through active engagement. The Decree Number 51 of 16 June 1993 established the mandatory one-year program for fresh graduate exempting youth above 30 years of age. The program allows the graduate to have 3 weeks orientation courses, get their primary placement of assignment, offer community development services, and observe the personnel parade. With the ideas of inculcating discipline and patriotism, observers believe that the gains of the scheme far outweighs the pains. Looking at how it has promoted tolerance and stronger bond among youth coming from different parts of the country, as well as acquiring the spirit of resilience. However, beyond this, how have the youth been able to maximize their service year? Through empowerment, entrepreneurship, vocational skills and training. What are some of the challenges for the youth in maximizing the service year? Has the objective of the scheme really been actualized? These questions and more will be answered shortly by our guest on the program Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, now joining us in the studios to discuss the topic, we have 4 guests. First, we'd like to welcome Dr. John Abuere. He's a retired director of the NYSC and now chairman, Center for Childcare and Youth Development. Dr. Abuere, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Also here with us in the studios, we're glad to welcome him back, is Obinaya Uruakba. He's an entrepreneur and personal development trainer. Pinaya, pleasure again that you are back with us.
Always my pleasure, sir.
Okay, Kieran.
And we also have Obike Kelechuku. Obike Kelechuku is a core member, and also with us is Jessica Oche, is also a core member. You are welcome, both of you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, today we are looking at NYSC, and that's why you are involved this morning. And Kisley will lead us with the first question.
All right, so to the two core members, I would say, I hope they still say that Ajuwaya. Would they still say it? Yes, Ajuwaya, yes, on the drill, when you're having your drills.
Yeah.
But let's begin by saying the NYSC is 45 years old already. And the founder of the scheme, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, of course, is well alive. But from your perspective, how well has the vision of the scheme been realized? There have been changes over the years, but how well has the vision of the scheme been realized? Dr. Aboyari.
First of all, let me pay tribute to the core members who recently died in Taraba, somewhere there. May their soul rest in peace. They made the supreme sacrifice in the national interest. Having said that one, the National Youth Service Corps has been the best thing that happened to this country. And I say it's a jewel that has been used, but still to be well used. It's helping getting youths and other Nigerians from one country, from one part of the country to the other. It has helped in promoting employment. This is very serious, I underline it, employment. It has made manpower readily available to different sectors of the economy. And it has created a kind of national consciousness that was hitherto not there. Remember, okay, we are talking about achievement. Before the establishment of the National Youth Service Corps, patriotism in this country, the spirit of nationalism, we're almost dead. The NYSC has, revived this one. In the more recent times, their participation in the electoral process, has brought a tremendous change and improvement in that sector. I would say really that as a developmental outfit, as a unifying agency, the NYSC has done so much for the country. And if it is encouraged, if I had the opportunity, I would say that one, because the sky is the limit, because the NYSC has all it takes to really transform this country if it is properly utilized.
And talking about, also with you, talking about properly utilized, yes. You have been the director of NYSC. Yes. And are there things in your thoughts that were not properly done at the time that have been corrected this time around? If yes, how would the scheme, be sustained, ensuring that all the elements which was visioned by the man who brought it to play will be achieved?
I will start by saying that nation building is a very serious thing, a serious task which this country or leaders of this country do not seem to appreciate. It's a very serious task. And the NYSC itself was established against certain odds, against huge elite failure in leadership, in management, in governance, and many problems of underdevelopment, poverty, etc., etc. What I'm trying to say is that if you knew that this is the background to the program, we have a duty, a responsibility to ensuring that, one, sufficient funds are made available. Two, the orientation camps are made use of. But above all, opportunities are created for the young person to really participate. The whole process of saying rejection should it come up in a country like Nigeria, where we have a vast land mass, and rest of that. I will come shortly to this aspect of your question. But what I'm trying to say that at the moment, there are so many things that could be done. When we were there, we said, okay, rejection was coming up. we said 3 key areas in this country: health, agriculture, education, can absorb all the core members. Because I did a research at that time. I also did a little research on why core members' performance was going down. And I saw that they were looking into, within the first 6 months, they are working very hard. But after the 6 months, they are preoccupied with something else, unemployment. They are being weighed down by the prospect of going into a life of hopelessness. And I said, look, what we needed to do to solve this problem is to insist, one, that core members must all be deployed to these areas I mentioned. 2, we must set up a kind of contributory saving scheme that will give hope to the core members and ensure that government invests. This philosophy of saying government has no business. Government has business in doing business. I will say that any time of the day. To create job. When things are hard, government are called in. When they are simple, we say the private sector. I'm not saying private sector has in the but government had a duty to create job in order to have, sustain hope, for the people serving. But above all, how do you say a core member is rejected? Why should they reject?
All right, Dr. Abore, let's pause you in the meantime. Well, I'm sure we're going to return to some of these issues of rejection and so on and so forth. But still evaluating the essence of the scheme, Obinaya Uruakwa, from your perspective, how well has the NYSC fared?
Excellent. Having been a copper myself, I served in 1991, and a bit of my story will help answer your question directly. I served in Doma local government area after having been mobilized as command school orientation. And then I got into the local government area and found out that the school where I served had not had an English language teacher for 5 years. And the students were writing work. I just wanted to begin to imagine. I served there for 1 year, and while serving, my allowance was 350 naira. And I would use this allowance and buy yams at 6 naira, 8 naira, 12 naira. And at the end of the term, would put it in plateau riders and take it back home to Owerri. And my mom would be giving it out to people. We found out that the yams that I brought back to Owerri was 7 times cheaper in Doma than in Owerri. What does that tell you? Now, we'll still address the issues of things that coppers can do while they are serving. But appraising the NYSC, why was the NYSC set up? The NYSC was set up in exactly May 22, by a decree, 1973. That was 3-4 years after Nigeria came out of the Civil War. So the General Gowon and his team that set up the NYSC had something in mind to bring national cohesion, to let Nigerians get opened up to what Nigeria truly represents. Most times, if you were in the Southeast and you saw someone dressed like me, which was why I actually deliberately dressed like this, you thought Onya Hausa, one Hausa man. But today we have intercultural marriages where someone like me served in Plateau State, and I met people and understood that Plateau people, Biroms and so on, were not Hausa people. And then if you walked up north to Sokoto, you found out who was Hausa, who was Fulani, who was who. And then I found out that Nigeria is 928,000 square meters of land. What have we done with that, with 60% of it arable? And then what do we do with the core members? What Dr. John Abwere has said. It's obvious that if we begin to work on the mindset of the core members, they will begin to see themselves as catalysts of development. And then there should be a handshake between the public and the private sector. What have we done, those of us in the private sector? Have we engaged the NYSC? Why should you reject a core member? Now, you may have your economic reasons for rejecting a core member, but if you see it from the perspective of contributing to national development, that you are also a stakeholder in making Nigeria great, then you would find a way to accommodate a core member. There are other challenges I've seen over time, that a core member comes to serve. And because he's not in management, he's not a line manager, you get him to be serving tea and be buying granuts and buying guguru and ekpa for the staff. That doesn't make sense. That core member is a potential governor tomorrow, a senator, a House of Reps member, and how do you do leadership socialization? Who would you hand over to? That's a potential Kingsley Osadolo or Kiri Anumaya who will sit here one day and address the nation, or address General Assembly of the United Nations. On Monday, when we discussed the Empower and the youth empowerment in the country, we talked about Mark Zuckerberg. Pardon me to mention that name. But today, young corps members use their phone to do selfie. But the Facebook we are all enjoying is the creation of a young boy who is not even 35. So what are we talking about? Employability issues and so on. But the interesting thing I found about the NYSC coming over time is that we have had DGs who have come, including the current one, Kazauri, who have begun to look at skill acquisition. Now, 6 years ago, the clamor was, should we scrap the NYSC? And the question I ask is, why would you scrap the NYSC? Even if there are challenges with it, why would you throw away the baby with the bathwater? Now, so the idea of SAID, skill acquisition and entrepreneurship development, came up. And it's 6 years this year. And what I have seen happen is that, if you permit me, I'll just mention about 12 business skills areas. You have agro-allied. I'll give you an example, if you permit me, sir. Before I left my house, because of the consciousness from youth service, I went to the back of my house, somewhere here in Abuja, in the heart of the city. This is scent leaf, Nchuang. You can use to do your yam porridge. Now, this is curry leaf.
Curry leaf.
But what do? We all go to buy the one that has been imported into Nigeria, and you're wondering why the economy is not doing too well. This from the back of my house is still fresh. There's no argument. This is ogo leaf, pumpkin. Now I'm asking, the Smedan document we discussed on Monday has what they call one local government, one product, OLOP. There's no local government area in Nigeria today that doesn't produce at least one commodity. Have we given the consciousness to these young corps members that the young one that is in Aba can decide to give you Kingsley Osadolo, get palm oil for you from Ibeku, I mean, say my village, and put it in a vehicle and then get it across to Abuja for you here? I challenge you, the palm oil from my village is sweeter than the one from the market here somewhere in Abuja. But
yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, thanks a lot for. I know we will come back to the issues of the skills. Kirian, yes. I know you are itching to pop a question. Just before, he was talking about palm oil. I'm sure you know a place called NIFO. That is the Nigerian Institute for Oil Palm Research. Yes, that's my place. So that's in Benin. So that's where you get the best palm oil.
All right, Jessica, you have listened to the first speakers, right? And you are right now experiencing youth service. Now, what's your own assessment? You know, coming from your own experience, from leaving the school and of course, enrolling yourself in the NYSC scheme. What has been your experience?
My experience so far has been of more good than harm. It has really opened my eyes to a lot of opportunities and things I didn't know I had in me. They helped you groom them and made you better. Example, the skill acquisition program they had in camp, it teaches you on other things that you probably love to learn, but you never had the opportunity or the finances to do so. And then you have the free opportunity to learn them. It now helps you manage your time, help you access these opportunities, and then also help you to start a business, maybe after camp and all of that, in case there are no job opportunities. So my experience so far in camp, and even as I'm serving right now, has been really a good one.
So you were not rejected?
I was, actually. I was rejected.
Tell us about that.
It was painful. It was heartbreaking. But then I found other opportunities to get one. I got rejected because they said the organization was too cramped up, so there was no space to receive more corpers. And even if I was accepted at the moment, I won't be able to be put in a department until after like 3-4 months. So it was advisable they reject me at that moment. Yes.
You're talking about the skill acquisition component, and again, when we were starting this program, we did say that the NYSC service here has 4 segments. There's the mobilization, and that's to go to the orientation camp, your primary assignment. There used to be community development, and then thereafter, of course, you're passing out. Now, this is at the orientation camp. At some point, I recall that the period was shortened. It used to be about 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not sorry. I mean, 6
weeks. Then we took it to 4. Then we took it to 3.
I'm not sure. I don't remember how many weeks we spent now, but I'll have to search my memory to. Yeah, it was a long while. I recall it was a long while. You went to all kinds of places. So, at what point is the skill acquisition incorporated? Is it at the orientation camp? And if so, what kind of skills were corps members exposed to, and which one did you pick?
Okay, it was at the orientation, the second week in camp. That was when we started fully. The first week was just basic knowledge of what the skills were going to be about and what set of skills. Yes, and the ones that were available, they had bead making, they had tailoring, they had catering, they had makeup, they had leather making, shoes and bags and all of that. The one I participated in was catering. Yes, and right now I know there are some cooking skills that have improved.
Do you intend to open a restaurant?
Yeah, with time I intend to go professional, like to go to a proper culinary school and then
get a properly equipped certificate-wise.
Yes.
All right, Obike, you know, let's share your own experience too, because you're still serving. I know that when it comes to the issue of skill acquisition, what she has chosen may not necessarily be what you choose as a young man. So tell us about your experience.
My experience during this period of service has been wonderful, from the orientation camp and now that I'm doing my primary assignment. The experience has been marvelous. In the camp, during the SAID program, the Skill Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development Scheme, the program, I joined the group making paint making, but the man that was tutoring us, that was helping us, at the time he looked as if he's trying to, you know, get something out of us. You know, extort us. He won't give us the full knowledge. He just give us the basic and tell you after the camp you should come over to so place to meet him. But I left the place. Then I joined photography and filmmaking. So there I was taught the basics and how I can use it, you know, for tomorrow. How can I make money from it? How can I attend wedding ceremonies, burials and other funeral and other stuff to make money from it, even Nollywood, to do the filmmaking and how to make money from it. And someone like me, I like going vast, so I also left there when I got the basis and I went to shoemaking. And then I met a friend and he has been handling me well on how to make shoes.
Two skills, shoemaking and of course photography.
Yes, because I had to weigh both of them. I know that, yes, this one, for me, if I learn this one, I need a lot of money for the filmmaking, to buy my camera and other stuff to start. But that of the shoemaking, I can actually go to market and get my sew, then get my material, stay in my own house, do it. When I do the first time, I don't really get the design, do it and continue doing it. Then with time, I'll perfect on it and then sell. So weighing the two skill acquisition, I found out that the shoemaking is less expensive compared to the filmmaking and the photography.
Okay, no, just Kieran, just hold on. You said your service, so far has been marvelous. But tell us what is happening in the orientation camps, because some years ago there were unpalatable reports about sanitary conditions as well as inadequacy of kits and so on and so forth.
Okay, my experience in the camp, it was okay. The first week we came in, they started the normal orientation, hey, remove your headdress, how to salute the general and other people, other personnel. Then the second week there were little problems in the sense that, you know, the way we were mobilized, the way we were handled in the camp, the way we were handled in the camp, it was not really good. To an extent, our health, our welfare, they don't really take care of us. Found out that the hall I was sleeping, we were too many, and the condition was it wasn't conducive. The environment was not conducive for us. You understand? I tried asking one of the soldiers, why is this so? In the government, they make provisions for these things. Why is this so? Whose fault is it? Is it from the people, the coordinators, or from the government itself? So it happened to tell me that, yes, that this year, the population of corps members this year is high. Like from Abuja camp, we had up to 3,000, if I'm not mistaken. We had up to like 3,000 corps members. And we found out that the environment, the food, the clothing, the kits, where we stayed, health condition, on a scale of 10, I'll give it 5, because it wasn't available and adequate for all the corps members in the camp. Some were leaving after 2 weeks. After first week, they left. After 2 weeks, they were leaving because the environment was not conducive to an extent.
All right, before we leave the corps members, let me go back to Jessica. Now, this program is actually targeting maximizing the gains of NYSC. Invariably, it means that when you pass out and acquire some skills, you could be self-employed.
Yes.
Now, all the members enthusiastic as you guys are with respect to acquiring skills? Because some may be lazy, some may not be interested in that. So those who are more interested in getting a white-collar job. So what both of you have told us now, is it universal, among your co-members?
To be frank with you, I think it's only 30% of COP members that even utilize these opportunities that are given to us. Most of them don't even come to camp. Some stay home and don't come for the 3 weeks orientation. Some even in camp, they don't bother attending the skill programs set up for us. So I won't say a lot of people are utilizing this opportunity.
All right. Well, that's, I'm sure, different strokes for different folks. That's the way the saying goes. I was just wondering, before we leave the issue of skill acquisition in the course of the orientation, I know that we'll come back to it, and Dr. Abure is itching to respond to something. But before we leave that, how do you explain the relationship, if you had the experience while you were in school? Because we understand that now in institutions of higher learning, there's something called entrepreneurial studies. So how do you relate entrepreneurial studies in school to the skill acquisition you are getting now in the NYSC? How come all of a sudden it is in the NYSC that your eyes are now being opened to skills and to opportunities? Let's Obike and then back again to Jessica. Or Jessica, either of you can take the question first.
Okay.
Okay. When I was in school, yes, in my third year, I schooled in Federal University of Technology, Futo. In my third year, they introduced this course, the ENS 301, that's about the entrepreneurship studies. It was more of theory, teaching us, telling you how to manage your business, your strength, your opportunities, your weakness, and your threats in the university. And at the time, they taught us soap making. It taught us soap making, but on the ratio of the students and the person teaching was 1:10. Imagine you're teaching like 3,000, one person handling 3,000 students at a time. So some people let's just sit down, just take the attendance and go home. But on personal level, I read my books, I learned certain things about the entrepreneurship studies. Then here in camp, I had to compare and contrast what I've been taught in school and what is actually happening now. Yeah, to an extent is very good, because what I learned there in school, I am to an extent applying it now in my own skill acquisition here in Abuja.
Jessica?
Okay, so basically in school was the same thing. They gave us theory in our second 200 level. Yeah, and then in our 300 level, we went to NAPTIP, that's in Zaria, because my school was ABU Zaria. And then they just showed us the practical things, because there's an organization where they produce raw materials and utilize it. So they just showed us how they're making tinned tomatoes, soap, liquid, and then how to make use of moringa fruit. So basically just give us the basics of how these things work, but not the view depth of how
hands-on. That's the skills were not there.
Yes.
But you understood, you were taught the basic of business.
Yes.
And you know how to get there. All right. Thanks a lot, Kieran. Let's bring in Dr. Abu. I think he was itching to respond to one of the points that the members were discussing.
Yeah, just to assist. When we were in the NYSC, and I know states that can still go down there, we always encourage core members, because we know that 3 weeks, for example, is insufficient to really acquire the proficiency required in some of the skills. We say them, go back to your mentor and make sure that you perfect. That is one thing I wanted to let them. 2, the question of crowdiness in the camp has to do with pressure of the family. You see, the laws are clear. Post people to different parts of the country, although we do know that insecurity these days does not allow that to be done fully. But people want to be in Abuja, people want to be in Lagos, and people want to be in Kaduna. Yes, what we did, and it brought us General Oki. We sat down with Director of Research that, look, we must discongest these areas through policy framework of making sure that Abuja will have maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people. What are they doing here? I'm sorry to say that. We have states, rural states, we start posting them. And we never had any problem of congestion in the camp. when the pressure became too much from the elites, because that is actually the problem, we said, okay, we increase it to 2,000 because the camp in Abuja can take 2,000. And so through posting policy measures, some of the problems they encountered in the camp will be addressed. But having said that one, it brings me back to the question I mentioned earlier. If we want to really do nation building, we must be prepared to invest in the human capital because they build, society. And that is not yet the case. I can say that one. Two, I'm happy you were really concerned about what will be the prospect of somebody who has acquired some skills, even though you didn't so I could try to read your mind. You see, it's a justified fear because what we are doing today is not new in the youth sector. When Tanzania came up, all those East African countries, when they got independence, they set up what they call the village polytechnics to take care of these ones. But very shortly, because of the bread and butter and certificate mentality we are having, sooner than that one, the moment a boy got a certificate, he starts looking for white collar job. So we need a series of attitudinal reorientation. We need serious work on the mind of the parents, of the mind of the youth, that the things are no longer as they were. At that time, the first time people said, I think we had 23, 65 or 64 core members. 2,000, 3,000 core members, it's just, it's less than what we are having in each of the states today. When we are talking about 400. So the number of graduates had increased. The meaning of this one is this, my young Nigerians, is that you are faced with a different reality from what was before. And that is why, even though they were taught entrepreneurship in the school, they now are closer to reality and therefore learn to take things very seriously. I decided to intervene at this point so that they will go back and meet those their mentors. When I introduced NYSC collaboration to teach management, I had in mind that it's not going to be an orientation time. It will be a year program, and it's been on for a very long time so that they will be grounded very well in leadership, in management, etc., etc. So that is what I wanted to say.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, in recent times, the core members have been utilized on some national service that perhaps may not have been captured regionally when it started, such as ad hoc electoral staff, which of course Atahiru Jega actually began when he was head of INEC. Now, is that healthy? What does that add to the gains of NYSC? I'd like to come to you.
These young people we're talking about have passed through 4 years, 5 years, 6 years in the higher institutions. These are the elites, the future educated ones in our country. In 1991, I served as a returning officer in Doma local government area. I also served as a census officer. I crossed 7 rivers to get to the Tiv homelands, and so Doma, Alago, and all of those areas. I contributed to that community. So it's not out of place to use these young people. You're preparing them for leadership. Now, what we may have a challenge with is the loopholes that exist where there are areas of compromise. I was approached for certain things. I saw underage try to vote, and I resisted. So you need to come down to what he said, attitudinal change, the mindset that we give to these young people. But let me to backstep. I'll need to give some information. So my research shows that on a yearly basis, the NYSC mobilizes about 300,000 core members, between 260,000 and 300,000. As I speak to you today, sir, I have some data for you that Abuja has about 3,000, like you said. It has the capacity of going to 6,000. The infrastructure is being stretched. More information, sir. The budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for 2018, proposal was 8.4 trillion. National Assembly jacked it up to 9.1, 9.2 trillion. From that budget, trillion, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, which supervises the NYSC, and where NYSC takes about 70% of the allocation to that ministry, has only 116 billion. And we're talking about raising youths who will take over from you and me. So where is our attention? Where are we putting our mind to? I'll give you an example. The jersey that the Super Eagles wore to play play the World Cup in Russia was sold out in a weekend during that friendly match before that, by Nike. In a matter of hours, 3 million jerseys were sold at £47 per jersey. Now, I'm going somewhere. She just talked about fashion, and OBK talked about other areas. There are about 12 areas that will prepare these young people. So where were we as a country when Nike signed the kind of agreement she signed with the sports authorities to produce 3 million jerseys and sold at 47 pounds per jersey? Sir, it came to 68 billion naira, which is like half of the 116 billion allocated to the ministry. What are we doing to ourselves? This could have been produced by a copper. Look at the kit she's wearing from head to toe, from the face cap to the jacket to the vest to the trouser to the stockings to the boots. Could have been produced in Aba or produced in Akwete and produced in UNTL. So it comes down to policy. We need to sit down and have a stakeholders meeting on this matter. The media, the National Assembly, the executive, all of us need to come down and ask ourselves, if we're going to continue with the NYSC, what exactly are we trying to achieve? You're talking about entrepreneurship. Sir, I had the privilege of attending business school in 2002, Enterprise Development Center for Atlantic University, where I have Lagos Business School, 2012. Until I got to business school, my eyes were not open to what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is theory and practice. My people will give you a proverb, a Sunday hand begets an oily mouth. We need to begin to tell this.
Just repeat that, because it's only Kira that would have
understand that.
Yes, just say it again.
I'll say it again. A Sunday hand begets an oily mouth, as in the case of the hardworking farmer in the farm. We need to tell these young people that entrepreneurship is about the doing. It's a verb. It's not just theory. Now, when you look at the universities, sir, Kingsley, you'll bear me witness. When you go to UK or you go to US, and a lecturer is embarking on sabbatical, where does he go for sabbatical? He goes from the gown, which is the university, and goes to Matori or where else we have people who are doing things physically. But what do we have? A lecturer like Dr. John goes from UI and goes to Unilag, sabbatical, and then these are the ones who are teaching entrepreneurship. Really? For real? No. I would rather prefer a tailor in our area market to come teach me how to cut, because some of these people have attended not business school, they've attended street business school. Street business school is where you get certificates, according to some people, not just certificates. So the emphasis has been on just this paper thing. So let me just say this, and I'll keep quiet, sir. NYSC is 45 today.
No, you're not keeping quiet just yet, but just make the point.
Let me make this point to you. Policy, sir. And I've told you my story. Can we come to a reality where we tell these young people that there are 80,000 civil servants in the Federal Civil Service? As I speak to you today, we do not have enough latitude and capacity to absorb the 300,000. And even the 300,000 is not all of them. We still have more that are still waiting to be mobilized. So can we allocate more money to the Ministry of Youth and Sports? And even before we do that, can we have a stakeholders meeting to understand the different areas of the economy? There are over 12 sectors they have decided to focus on: film and photography, automobile. Can we talk to Jalali Aliyu and the other guys? We had come to a point where we were going to bring in some guys in Badagry and other places to come and set up automotive plants and so on. Where is that now? Can we also look at it? I'll give you the building industry. We still have 17 million housing deficit. Sir, I live in a small bungalow that God helped us to put together. As I speak to you, you need at least 30 professionals to build a bungalow. You need the iron bender, you need the sand supplier, you need the painter, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Have we consciously discussed with these young people? Now, roadworks, power works and housing. Sit down and find out how many jobs can come out of that. Who said there's unemployment in Nigeria? I don't think so.
All right, Obinaya, now we're going to tell you to temporarily pause. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with this conversation. All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, and we're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, let's bring in the two youth corps members who are right here with us in the studios to respond to the number of points that have been raised. First, Obike.
Okay. Adding to what our Mr. here said about channeling the resources, raising more resources, more allocation for the youth corps members. one thing is to raise allocation, another thing is to manage the resources you're raising. It's not just raising and just leave it there without managing it. Management is very good, and it's something that we should look into very well. If you're allocating resources without managing it, the resources is wasting. Okay, let me come with an idea or an example. When you talked about the Nike jersey, assuming that, okay, with this year we've had we will have like 4 core batches leaving. Ones that left before we came in April, the ones that left July, the past July, the ones that will be leaving by October, if I'm not mistaken, and people that will leave by January next year. So, for example, now, for the Nike jersey that he talked about, why can't we, or why can't the people managing us, people that passed out during passed out before us during the April batch, from last year, to give them this material, this kit that we wear. After training them, you give them the material, you supervise them, just like WAEC, how they mark the West African examination. You give it to teachers, you manage them, you supervise them. At the end of it, you cross-check what they've marked. And if anybody didn't do it well, you penalize the person. Now, what if from that April last year that they came in, after undergoing the side program on tailoring, you empower them, you give them the materials, you supervise them, you tell them that if you can able to make so amount of kits, like you will get this kind of reward. I bet you, Nigerian youths, they'll do more, they will do better for them to get that amount. Then for the shoe, the jungle boots you're wearing, I know of somebody, my friend Afiz, he can't do it. The size they gave him in camp wasn't his fit, so he had to, when he left camp, he actually made another one for himself. Now for those kind of persons, those kind of youth members, when you call them and tell them, if you're able to produce this kind of jungle boot for the next batch coming in, that you'll be able to get so amount of money, I bet you we'll do better. And not just doing it for that to that time. When we leave camp, we'll be able to do something for ourselves, pick it up, and after doing it, we submit to the government, the coordinators, they check it, and if it is okay, they pay you. You use the money and invest in another thing. So if we're able, not just allocating resources, start giving it out without managing it. If when you allocate, manage it, harness the potential in people you are allocating the resources, I bet you tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow we just come out and do things for ourselves without even looking for white collar job. Because we in Nigerians now, most of us don't look into white collar job. We want something for ourselves.
All right, thank you very much, Jessica. What are your thoughts on this with regard to deepening the skills that you have been acquiring or that you have acquired, along with entrepreneurial knowledge?
The same thing he said, we should be given the opportunity to explore the skills that we've been taught in camp, because most of the time they don't give us the opportunity. They just feel we should do well with what we have, and then even if we pitch an idea, they barely take us serious, and then they don't give us the opportunities to explore those capabilities that we have.
Okay, Dr. Bora, I'd like to take you on some issues. Obin actually raised pertinent issues bordering on expanding the horizon of the NYSC scheme to accommodate other aspects of entrepreneurial activities. Well, in your experience as a former director of the NYSC, what is possible? Is it a possibility to expand the horizon, to engage especially the private sector, to also add value to what the government is doing?
Yes. Actually, in my notes here, I said a role should be carved out for the private sector, for example. They should have a training center, not only to train, but to prepare them to go into the private sector. And for any private person that employs up to 30 or so core members, they should be given some tax release. But I haven't said that one. I think I needed to quickly support and respond to some of the issues down. No doubt about it, the youth sector needs greater fund allocation for them. But let the pressure not be given that 70% of the vote for the Ministry of Youth goes to the NYSC. No, that could be misleading if you don't explain it. What do they do it? You would rather say goes to the payment of allowance to core members, because you have to pay that. It's even so small, And I think that I learned that there is a process going on where something will be increased. Two, my friend Karen mentioned certain things that were not anticipated. No, the decree anticipated even annex and other things are unforeseen. That is why they said the NYSC should post people according to national needs. So when the needs come up, we go and that takes care of that one. But I think one thing is this. If we are talking about how to maximize the gains of the future, we need to know what the kind of person you are sending out, what is he having? Is it the same kind of patriotism that the adult people are having? No. So I think that the NYSC's mechanism for supervision must be, strengthened. And how do we do it? We have the presence, of NYSC in all the local government, and core members are there. But do they have the vehicle to get down there? Do they even have the bicycle? Let's say the local government's inspector needs to be given a bicycle to be able to go around and do the kind of thing he was suggesting that, if there is a community project on the, let's say an agriculture, to go and see whether they are doing it. So this supervision aspect of it is not actually there. I'm also thinking that there has been, a conscious policy neglect of the really basic interests of the Nigerian youth. It's not just sufficient actually to say, do skill acquisition. What do we do with these skills? This is where I think there had to be a kind of fund or arrangement where any person, like he's saying now, call this thing. There are people already printing the call this thing. You only need to go and meet them and learn the process of participation. It's a competition to exist. And that is what we are trying to do. Just one more minute. Then I think there has been general lack of advice, general lack of incentives for core members. No person really, when you send them, you mentioned use tea. Tea is even good, you occupy them. They are not even giving any office. Yet without participation, you cannot learn. There cannot be empowerment. That is why I think we needed to advise, to give room to that. Then let us, we, the elders, be role model. What I'm saying is this. Yesterday or 2 days ago, people were demonstrating. The National Assembly was locked up. Meanwhile, they forgot that young people are watching. Is that the way to run a society? The service says, when the law says, when you finish your service, when you finish your degree, submit yourself. If you don't submit yourself, who is responsible for making sure that you submit yourself? No person is talking. I think really that there is really, there are many opportunities, but the elites are not giving the young ones that chance to participate maximally.
Dr. Abuere, I will return to you presently. Well, yes. Kirian, let's take the tweets. Yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, unfortunately, we couldn't take the tweets on account of the network challenges, but those network issues have been cleared up. I will quickly take some tweets and I will return to you to speak to some other aspects. Shakiro has this tweet. NYSC has done enough for service to Nigeria and to bring Nigeria together, but core members must have something to gain by involving themselves in vocational training.
All right, from Festus Akimboewa. NYSC continues to be a valuable tool in promoting social cohesion, social mobility, and social engagement. It has positive impact on core members and assists in building essential skills for life and work. However, government needs to pay more attention on the well-being of core members.
This is Bala Muhammad Gaidam. It says the NYSC is good in preparing the youth for skill acquisition and leadership challenges. It has to be reorganized so as to relate well but not scrapped. I learned how to live with my fellow Nigerians in other parts of the country, understood cultural diversification of the entity called Nigeria, my country.
Akimbode Moise, when I was in camp, we were all introduced to skills, but only to know that you can go further when you are out of camp in a week. And it's funny, NYSC started telling us how we can be our own boss without capital. And
Yakub has this tweet. Southern Kaduna was an experience itself. The good people of Kiaya make me believe that Nigeria can be peaceful without any religious barrier. if we want it to be. All right, I want to return to you, Dr. Abuere. Earlier, you talked about the fact that there were some areas of great national need, and those areas continue to exist: health, agriculture, education, and Obinaya also added infrastructure. But the emphasis appears to be, accent has now been on skill acquisition. How can we marry the drive for skill acquisition along with filling these gaps in our national needs with regard to healthcare, agriculture, education, and infrastructure provision?
Yes, I'm happy with this question because it brings us to the original objective of the National Youth Service, which is to promote national unity, national development, promote industry in the youths, change attitude and rest of them. And this we are done, as I said, against the background of underdevelopment, against the background of poverty, against the background of mass illiteracy. The question I'm asking, and of course disunity, the question I'm asking, these problems, or have these problems disappeared? And I'm saying we have the resources. In fact, that was why we set up this Center for Childcare and Youth Development. We have the resources. All we need to do, it's not contradictory, the skill acquisition. It's only enriching the process. All we need to do is to really solicit the support, one, of the elites, the support of the families, to allow NYSC do its job. When we came up with the whole idea of saying, post people to this area, for example, Nigeria's level of mass illiteracy is still very, very high. As a matter of fact, deploy the 400 core members, 400,000 core members to education. Because this is national service, we have to be serious about it. We have to be serious about it. Let them go and teach. Let them wipe out illiteracy. Because without it, this country cannot really move. But if we do that, what will happen to the medical health services? That is why we said all doctors must be deployed to the rural area, to the basic health centers. I established one when I was director in Uruhi. It's a rural area, and 3 or so years ago, I went there. I was the happiest person to see that it is still functioning. So we have the resources to do this one. Then as for infrastructure, in Ghana, when I took a trip there, I was interested in how they organize their youth service. Do you know that they are very, very enterprising? As a matter of fact, their enterprises are self-paying, So they have the adult even service. When you retire, where you are called upon to put your service into the national development process. What we are trying to say that Ministry of Works, what stops it from giving a crash program of apprenticeship to all the engineers and say, okay, we are going to develop Uromi roads today. Uromi is my area, I know it. But I do know that there are other areas that need construction, okay? And there are experts in this. All you needed to do is really train them, and you see them doing the right. That is why I said we are not using the NYSC properly. They are educated people. They are found in all the local government. What intelligence service have they been used? All you really need to do with these people, and I have experimented that when we want to introduce this job, skill acquisition, we are saying, how is it going to be done? I got home, I called a meeting of core members, and by the time they finished, 3 hours alone, they have given me a number of things to be done. In other words, if you consult them, you take them into confidence, you find that a lot of creativity will be taking place because they don't know any other thing than to really think. But we are not using them. So I still believe really that, one, if the NYSC stands again, like Oki did, I say, look, gentlemen, we are going to be posting core members. We know they are all professionals, but these are the areas of national need. During the orientation, we give them, the orientation that is needed. We call it, they teach, they go to health center, they go to the country, they will be better utilized, and no person will be talking of rejection. As for the skill acquisition, yes, it doesn't stop them. You do it in the camp, then you go and perfect maybe once in a week. But like that respondent said, we also have to provide, a kind of funding You see, two things about life we should know, and the youth are part of the national process. They are only just younger aspect of it. What motivates you, motivate them. Simple recognition, simple hope building that tomorrow will be better is there. That is why I talk about that post-service adjustment allowance, which I've been saying since the time I've been in the NYSC, that we need to have something that youth will be looking up to. And there is the need for us to also say, look, men, invest heavily on infrastructure, you know, and make sure that employment are there. Keynes says so. He said, look, it is better for you to dig for somebody without a job, to employ him, let him dig the soil and replace it back just to have money. And when you employ them, you tax them. So why is government so much afraid, you know, to adopt the philosophy, the Keynesian philosophy of development? That is what almost every country, whether it's America, has adopted at one time or the other. And we are in the position to do it now. Kingsley, or gentlemen, let me tell you, I'm talking from a position of professionalism. I'm a development expert. I'm sorry to say that I have to. I'm a development expert. I have done all these things. I've done so many studies. My book here, let them even read The Power of Youth. I spend time to work on this thing and say, look, if we do this one country, when you are investing in youth, you are not investing because you like them. You are investing in the future of the country so that it will be stable, so that it will be developed, so that, you know, there will be beauty in it. So these are the issues. So there is no contradiction between all we need is between the skill acquisition and what the other national needs. But I'm telling you, if the NYSC is encouraged, when I use the word encouragement, because I knew where the problem was coming from when we tried it first. They said, no, it's against professionalism, it's against the law. We say, no, not the law. This is the national needs now we have identified. We are going to pause there, and it works wonders. Why will it not work? When I see a country that is so much underdeveloped, you are saying there is no job?
All right, Dr. Abore, thanks a lot.
I was going to ask Obike to come in here, you know, because we're all making references to what you are presently experiencing as a youth corps member. Now, Dr. Abore actually, you know, talked about deploying corps members to the rural communities for the purposes of eradicating illiteracy. That's ensuring that because of course the bulk of illiteracy in Nigeria are located in those communities. Now, what about your colleagues who are presently serving in those rural communities where we may not have electricity, pipe and water, and other facilities? What are you getting from them? Perhaps, you know, some of your friends or colleagues, you know, who are not posted to Abuja. What are they telling you?
My friends are posted in the rural areas. The response I get from them, they're not positive. I get negative responses from them. One, they complain about electricity. They complain about roads. They complain about welfare. How can you deploy somebody to a rural area where there's no electricity, there's no good road network, there's no health, nice health center for him, and he's actually serving the country. The government should take care of him if he's going to that area. And he doesn't just go there. He will go there to do his primary assignment, teach people. For example, somebody like me, I've been teaching since 2012 before this new service. Whenever we're on holidays, I just go there to teach people. Now, when I go, I teach. They give me token. They pay me small. You understand? I use this money to take care of myself. I'm not there with my parents. I'm there alone. I'm in an area that I don't know anybody. So when you're deploying somebody to the rural area to teach, yes, they have the charisma to teach. They have what to share. They have what to bring up the kids, the students there. They teach them what they were taught in secondary school, in university. But if you can't take care of them, they keep on complaining. That is why most of them, they tell you, I want to go to Abuja, I want to go to Lagos. Where you have all these infrastructures. You understand? But when you take corps members to this rural area and you don't provide these basic amenities, you don't provide these necessary stuffs, I bet you can't get a positive response from them.
All right.
Is it the 1980 they are giving them? We cater for them for the period of 30 days. Let's check it out. 1980 divided by 30 is less than $2.
But we use Naira in Nigeria, by the way. And then just a minute. Attitude is also very important. I will give Obinaya the opportunity to come. Attitude is very important. Not all parts of the country have electricity. Not all parts of the country have roads as you have in Abuja. There are rural roads. Even in advanced, if you go to the US, there are also rural roads in the US. Although there are some areas also that struggle for infrastructure. Now, the experience can be very useful. And you are there for only about a year. Life is perhaps safer and much cheaper to live. I'm wondering, Obinaya, what's your response to what Dr. Abuere was explaining in terms of piggybacking on national needs and then skill acquisition? How do you run the pari passu? And more importantly, who can we get to catalyze all of this? You were talking about a stakeholders meeting earlier.
Thank you very much. I think there has to be a synergy of sorts among all of the stakeholders in this country. Now, I have a value chain mindset for things. For instance, if it's agriculture, I like to look at production, I like to look at processing, I like to look at marketing, and I like to look at services. Now, if we have that mindset to work together, then it will be easy to go to the point of policy formulation. He said something very critical. He gathered the young core members, Dr. Abuere, I hope I'm right, and then he did a bottom-up approach. He sought their own position. Even in your home, you get to hear, look at what Obike is saying, and I feel for him. I served in 1991. At some point, we were taking water from the well. The rat will fall into the well, and we'll remove it, and after 4 days, the smell will go, and then we'll continue cooking with it. Talking about attitude and sense of patriotism. A lot of core members are paying huge sacrifice. Now, some of them are even dying in the course of this. Now, it's so unfortunate, but it comes with it. Nobody has promised you that it will be El Dorado, but there must be some point we meet them midway. Now, I'm happy that we're moving from 19,800 to 49,800. I'm yet to confirm if that has been implemented. If that happens, it begins to look like a living wage, So it's important that we also understand that as you're increasing the allowances to 49,800, it adds pressure on the wage bill of the federal government. May we never come to the point where payment of allowances to corpers becomes a challenge. So what do? We should think backwards. Is it possible that these core members, like Dr. Abuere began to say, NYSC has listed about 12 areas: agro-allied, food processing and preservation, culture and tourism. Just look at culture and tourism, which is one of the largest employers of labor in the world. And when I was talking about, NYSC taking over 70% of the allocation to the Federal Ministry of Youth, I was actually singing from the same hymn book with you. By the time you pay allowances to the core members, you pay for 3 weeks in camp, 21 days, and then skill acquisition happens for 10 days in camp. Now, all of that investment by NYSC, you hardly have enough money for salaries and training and other things for even the staff of NYSC. So we're singing from the same hymn book. Now, you're talking about cosmetology, information and communication technology, construction, environment, beautification, power and energy, education, and so on. As simple as renewable energy. These young people are so creative. It will shock you what they can do. E-commerce, even online businesses. Some people, but the problem with Nigeria is that we don't sit down to learn enough. As simple as forex trading. A lot of things are going on online. These young people are doing stuff. Unfortunately, some of them were not guided, and many of them did like the MMM and some other things, and they lost money. But it's good. You get to burn your finger and then you listen.
People didn't put
a couple of people, young people. It's not only them, even Nigerians got involved. But what does that tell you? Nigerians have a very entrepreneurial spirit, and we need to latch in on that. Sit with Nigerians and pick their brains. It will amaze you. There's a book I will recommend to these young people. Go read Outliers, the 10,000 Hours Principle. Now, I do not particularly agree that you learn something and then you sit back until you come out from camp. Go read Outliers, the 10,000 hours. Anything you want to be an expert in, do it for 10,000 hours. That's why Kingsley can, without looking at the book, talk of extempo. Even if Kirian does not have a script, he can be talking for the next hour. He's been doing it. An old woman does not grow old in the dance. She knows how to dance. And like the Yorubas will tell you, it's only a child that raises her hand or his hand that you carry. We need to look at personal development. How many of these young people have sat down with pen and paper? Government will not do everything for you. Government didn't do everything for me. I retired at 36 from salary payment. And as I speak to you today, I consult for the same companies I retired from. I have worked in the insurance industry. I was an insurance agent. So but let me just tie it up here because I wrote down a few things. Central Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture. I'm going to be very bold and blunt on this on air and say this, and I've said it on air before. You have 220 billion MSME Development Fund. You have the Youth Entrepreneurship Development Program. You have the smears. You have the agri-related things. You have the smear down with some of the things they have introduced. Sir, I need to sit down with our people. And if we need to pay them a visit, let's go pay them a visit. What is the extent of implementation of all of these programs and you say you've allocated? I saw some complaints online. The young people said that some of the things they were told they will get from some of these agencies, I don't want to mention names again, they haven't not gotten. You spent over 800,000 to train them on a particular scheme. Now advance the money so they begin to practice what you've taught them. Yes, now, but where that does not happen, let me say something. Friends and family. You can raise money from friends and family. But the white man didn't do us a service. We are supposed to be taught academic knowledge, administrative knowledge, which is why you can hear me speak English. The last one the colonial masters did not teach us is financial intelligence. Young people should go do their own whether online or personal development, read up books, and then practice.
Thank you very much indeed. From all indications, a lot needs to be done, to see how we can really maximize the gains of NYSC, which is a very interesting scheme introduced into this country. More Nigerians are reacting to this conversation by sending in messages through tweets. Kingsley, I have this one from Fetos Kimboewa. He said Nigerian government through NYSC should expose core members to cutting-edge research and invest heavily in them to gain practical experience in technological innovation and development.
And this is coming from Pastor Arisha Monday. The service should be restructured to meet up with Vision 2020. Each NYSC member should financially, in the form of soft loan, be equipped to start up a business. That will help to eradicate unemployment.
Now, Chris Simeon, that one-year clarion call to serve our fatherland is great, something to remember. Skills are acquired by core members in every sphere of human endeavors.
And Akins Dada, an experience of exposure and on-the-job training that has helped my work-life stint and chances at one point or the other. That's the NYSC. It was 16 years ago. Gratitude to those who made it possible, especially the federal government of Nigeria.
Now, Chukwudi Ugoji, I hope I understand what he's trying to put across here. NYSC posting youth to education system where they are owing them salary for months. How can that help? I think
it is not the state governments that will pay the NYSC. I mean, they can supplement that. It is the payment will come from the NYSC itself, not from the
state where they serve.
Yeah, the states can.
But should there be contribution from states?
Well, of course, they can. They can't contribute, although they are notorious for owing salaries.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Uchenna Jesse Ihe Kwaba. Nigerian government should create an enabling environment for ex-corps members, especially the unemployed corps members. Maybe to pay them stipends every month, pending when they will get a job. You already have the Empower program.
Yes.
So you apply for that and get into it.
Now, Miracle OBT, why is that after serving, most industries and companies we are posted to don't retain us? Is it that we are not good? But after 2 years, go back to that industry, they will ask you for 5 or 6 years experience. Where are we supposed to gather the experience?
Francis Obi, I was posted to a European construction firm that handled a large irrigation scheme. It exposed me to be a professional in that field.
Okay, now, Bello or Madudu Aminu, let government increase their allowance, and then you will see the seriousness in those who really want to learn or did skill acquisition program for corpers. Gentlemen and ladies,
that's the most we can take. One issue that we touched on briefly at the beginning, I just want to ask the club members, very briefly, because we're pressed for time now. Do you still have community development program as part of the NYSC? What are you doing in the course of your CD?
I'm doing SDGs, Sustainable Development Growth.
What aspect of it?
I'm in advocacy.
Okay.
Yes.
Obike?
I'm into the FCT Marshall Band. We go to Kubo every Thursday, to drum and practice for our personal parade and for any other national service program that they may require, FCT Marshall Band to come over.
All right.
Kirian, just before we go, I think it's important for us to pay compliment to a gentleman who was a technocrat, a bureaucrat. He was said to be one of the brains behind the conceptualization of the NYSC. He passed away recently, Professor Adebayo Adedeji. He worked under General Yakubu Gowon. Of course, they proposed the idea, and General Yakubu Gowon, as head of state at the time, bought into it. Indeed, at It's a tribute ceremony in Lagos recently. General Yakubu Gowon was personally present.
All right, thank you. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a worthwhile conversation on this very interesting issue. And I'd like to, at this point, appreciate Dr. John Abuere, former director of NYSC and now chairman Center for Child Care and Youth Development. Thank you, sir, for coming. And also Obin Uruaba, entrepreneur and personal development trainer. Thank you indeed for your incisive contribution this morning. And then the two core members that graced the conversation this morning, I'd like to first of all thank Jessica Uche is a core member, and Ubika Stanley Kelichukwu. Thank you all for being part of our show this morning. Kinsley?
Thank you. All right, sir. So that does it for our conversation segment. Let's go over now to sports.
Well, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you immensely for finding time to wake up with us and, of course, stay until the end of the show. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian in also appreciating you. And don't forget, always, wherever the rest of the day takes you, it begins with us when we say Good Morning Nigeria. We're back same time, 7 o'clock, and that will be on Monday. Enjoy your weekend.